Ladies and gentlemen, drivers, gig workers, and everyone in between, welcome to This Week in Rideshare podcast. I'm your host, Jared Hoffa. It is Friday, October 10th, and this week, drivers can unionize, Waymo gets lobbyists, and Lyft kills a feature. Legal Rideshare breaks it down. And from Legal Rideshare, I'm joined by the co-founder and lead attorney, Bryant Greening. Bryant, happy Friday.
Happy Friday, Jared. Great to be back for yet another episode.
Yeah, we need to string all those together so we have 100 times of you saying that.
I I know. I feel like you could hear it the exact same way each time. I've got it
Yep.
perfect.
You know what I was thinking though, as I was putting the show together, I cannot even believe it's almost middle October. I feel like it was just July and we're literally in October. This is insanity.
It's crazy. Fall's my favorite time of the year, so I'm enjoying it. I like that it's a little crisp outside, but
Yeah.
it's crazy that we're going to be in winter soon, and I am not looking forward to that.
Yeah, it's in a blink, and then we'll be talking about how cold it is, and it's rinse and repeat, right? That being said, we're going to jump into the stories this week, which are all quite very interesting. We're going to start with the first one here, which is good news for drivers. They can, in California, soon unionize. And this is from TechCrunch, and they reported, quote, drivers for ride-hailing apps like Uber and Lyft will soon have the right to unionize in California as independent contractors, thanks to a bill signed Friday by Governor Gavin Newsom. This is part of a larger deal between lawmakers, unions, and ride-hailing companies, resulting in the passage of separate bills supporting lower insurance requirements for Uber and Lyft, along with union rights for drivers. The AP reports that more than 800,000 drivers will gain the right to join a union and collectively bargain for better pay and benefits. So we did talk about this before. It looked like it was going to go through. The governor, Gavin Newsom, signed it. I know you have thoughts. I know you have thoughts on this both ways. So, it seems like this is a good thing and potentially a bad thing, from what I understand.
Yeah, as we talked about before, I think that the general concept of giving drivers a collective voice is really a good thing. We want to see drivers being able to join together, use collective bargaining in their favor. The companies do not care and do not listen to individual driver complaints. We've seen that over and over where drivers have gone through really horrific situations, whether it's pay, whether it's deactivations, anything else. If it's one person trying to get their voice heard by the company, it falls on deaf ears. However, when there is a group, a union, an organization that can make their voice loud, that can take collective action to disrupt service, to take a variety of methods or means to make the companies listen. The companies do. They time and time again have bowed at the pressure put onto them by collective groups of drivers. We've seen this in Illinois with groups like IDG. We've seen this in Seattle. We've seen this in Minnesota. We've seen this in California. So anytime that the drivers can get together, it is a good thing. I want to see, protection strengthened. I want to see pay increased. I'm not sure that California is going far enough, but this is a good start, and I'm certainly not going to sit here and complain about the fact that drivers now have a collective voice.
Yeah, and I think, and like you said, the collective bargaining, I think, is the strongest part here. The insurance, dropping the insurance is obviously a concern, but it is a good sign, and it's not. This is now the second. I believe this is now the second city or state to have it. Was it Minnesota, I believe, who had it first? I know they fought it, failed, and fought, and I think they won. So this is good because it's going to showcase that other places should also do this and give drivers more leverage. I think that's the bigger thing here. And you talked about that a lot in the past, that Uber and Lyft were so resilient to any sort of change because if it wins anywhere, it could start winning in other places. And I think we're seeing that now, which is a good thing.
Yeah, and we've seen dominoes start to fall. Like I think it was in Seattle, there's Connecticut, there's Massachusetts, there's various places where drivers have had significant wins. And when those wins happen and then they start to multiply, it becomes easier for other cities and states to follow suit. So, I have problems with some of the details of this law, but overall, it is a win for drivers. It is demonstrating the power that drivers have, and it's you can hear the drill above me. um, it is an indication that there is real power that the drivers can yield, and it's an indication that more power nationwide may follow.
Right. Very well said. And obviously, we're going to keep track of this story and if anything develops in other cities and states, 'cause I think it will. This next story, honestly, this happened sooner than I thought. I feel kind of blindsided on this, and usually we're good at detecting these things early. But Waymo has hired lobbyists, and this is from Axios, and they reported, quote, Waymo recently hired 4 lobbyists from a local firm, state disclosure shows, signaling that it is gearing up to push for a green light to test and eventually launch its AV vehicles, or autonomous vehicles, in Minnesota. They didn't respond to Axios' question about Waymo's specific policy goals, but said the company is engaging with regulators and lawmakers across the globe to explain this technology in hopes of expanding to more markets. The co-chair of the House Transportation Committee, she said that she was, quote, more skeptical and a little bit more apprehensive about autonomous vehicles in the previous sessions. So they are really using the Uber and Lyft playbook here. They're already starting to slide into the lobbying and digging into the policy. So and interesting that it's in Minnesota. I'm not sure why that was the attack, but interesting.
Yeah, I'm not shocked by this by any means. The fact that Waymo is entering new markets and hiring people to lobby politicians, I mean, that is par for the course in terms of how these companies operate. If they can come into a jurisdiction and already have politicians swayed to a certain idea or buttered up to believe certain things about their product, it's going to be easier for them to control the market. We would like to see the governments, really take an unbiased approach, not swayed by lobbyists, but rather look at what the experts are saying, look at what safety experts have to say on Waymo vehicles, look at the data, look at the technology, and come up with real policy that's going to benefit its citizens. The fact that lobbyists are getting into politicians' ears early, I think just will make this more of like an Uber and Lyft type situation where for the longest time, including now, the companies get what they want because there's real money going into politics, going into campaigns. There's going to be factions pro Waymo, anti Waymo, based on on what the lobbyists are doling out in terms of cash or benefits. I don't think that's good for creating policy from the get-go, and I hope that governments can take this a real unbiased approach to try to create good policy from the start, so we've got a solid foundation when these cars do come onto the roadways, and make sure that it's safe for everybody.
Yeah, and it really feels like because I've been seeing this a lot in reports about Minnesota seems to somehow be, for these companies, the canary, I think, in the coal mine, as far as they're not doing this in the bigger cities or tech cities, and I believe they just believe it's going to work no matter what. It's warm weather, early adopters. These are tech people that are going to do it. They always keep hammering Minnesota, and I think this is their way to say, hey, if we can deal with the weather and the sentiment about AV vehicles, and with maybe more of a conservative policy and a smaller town Midwest feel, we won the U.S. And that's what it really feels like, because Minnesota keeps coming up constantly. If anywhere else that they could go, it's like Minnesota is the target. That is the goal. So it's very interesting to see that they're moving the pieces there, like you said, getting it into place before there's any sort of disruption, and getting the politicians on their side.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. It's if you win the Midwest, I think you win the whole thing.
Yep, exactly. And our final story, apparently I guess we can't have nice things, especially not drivers, because Lyft is killing its tips feature. And this is from News Nation, and they reported, quote, Lyft has scrapped a test feature that lets some drivers see how often passengers tip before accepting a ride. They said, quote, while this experiment showed early signs of improving the marketplace and helping riders get where they need to go on time, we heard our customers and canceled the experiment, a Lyft spokesperson told News Nation in an email Thursday. The decision comes after screenshots of the feature drew criticism on social media, with some vowing to stop using the popular rideshare service. So I think it's a very interesting choice of words when they say that showing early signs of improving the marketplace, but because a few people complained and say, hey, we're not going to do this, we're going to leave the app, they shut it all down.
It really speaks to how these companies value the marketplace for the drivers, because what they're saying here is, while the experience was better, while it was helping drivers decide whether or not they wanted to accept certain rides, whether a ride was worth their time or not, we are going to shut it down because it's bad for business. We are making less money because customers don't like that they're being called out for being bad tippers or non-tippers. So it really just proves the totem pole that we've always been talking about. And drivers, as we know, continually end up on the bottom. It was very surprising to me that it was so clear what Lyft was saying in the choice of words, as you said, that they used. I mean, it's like they were not mincing their words at all. They were not obscuring the message at all. It's customers don't like it. We don't care if it's good for drivers. It's gone. And that just really speaks loudly in terms of the business model.
It does make one thing, yeah, and the thing that's so ridiculous about all this, first off, is this isn't a full feature that had bugs and millions of people were complaining. It's a small test market where someone on social media threatened to cancel their Lyft subscription. That's what started all of this. So it's not like it's been running for a couple months around the country and it's having all these problems. No, it's literally, hey, we had a test market and someone said they may uninstall the app, and so now we're going to shut everything down without even knowing, well, actually with knowing that it's improving everything. But what's really interesting about this is that and I don't know how you achieve this, and this is really homework for the driver organizations out there. It is clear that these companies will very quickly bend to the will of the rider. Now, if there's some way that the driver organizations can get the riders on their side to say, I'm not going to use the app, I'm not, because the way you're treating drivers or because of what's happening, you could see serious change very quickly. That seems to be a very direct route. Now, that's obviously very tough, and how do you connect with riders? But that right there is a strategy.
Yeah, no, I think that's a great strategy, and I think it's something that's achievable.
Yeah.
We've seen how the companies try to convince riders that to vote a certain way because it's good for the drivers, and actually it's a trick. So we saw that in California way back when they were making those initial laws about whether drivers were independent contractors or employees. The company sent out emails to riders saying, vote. I can't remember if it was vote yes or vote no, but vote a certain way because it's going to help the driver community, when in actuality, it hurt the driver community. So customers are willing to get behind these sorts of grassroots campaigns, but they need to be educated. I think customers generally want the people that are driving them around to be compensated fairly, and they want them to make a livable wage. They don't want people to be thrown into poverty because of rideshare. I think a lot of customers, particularly in the big cities, often do have bleeding hearts, but they need to be educated either by politicians, by drivers groups, certainly not by the companies, as to what ways they can support the drivers and how they can use their voices to help support that cause.
Right, 100%. And it really is and should be positioned in a way that, look, this also benefits riders in terms of even things as small as safety. When it's a race to the bottom and drivers don't have what they need and their cars are on the verge of blowing tires because they can't afford them, that's not good for the riders either. You're in the car. And so I think there is a lot of common ground into having it benefit. And yes, like you said, which we have seen, and I took phone calls on this years ago, people were voting for Prop 22, believing it was pro-driver, believing that everyone wanted this until they realized, well, too bad it actually is not great for them. So there is opportunity there, and riders, like you said, do ultimately want things to be fair to the drivers. Drivers tell me all the time that they'll show how much money they're making, and the rider can't believe it. Or sometimes I'll talk to my friends, and we'll take, we took an expensive Uber or Lyft, and they'll go, "Well, that driver made out well," and I'll go, "Actually, they did it, and they didn't make it at all," and they can't believe it. And
Right.
so there is a lot, like I said, there's a lot of information and getting the facts out there, that if it was out there, I think things would shift a lot faster. It's one thing to have hundreds or thousands of drivers say that they're going to stop a platform. It's a very damn different thing when riders say they're not going on the platform. They're leaving it. It will put them to their knees in an hour.
Yeah.
So that, there is an opportunity there if you guys are listening to figure it out and push through it.
100% agree.
Yeah. So that is the stories for this week. And as always, Bryant will give you the final say before we head into the weekend.
Yeah, we always remind everybody that Legal Rideshare is available for free consultations. If you find yourself injured or in an accident while using the rideshare platforms, we can always help. We can always help with free consultations for pain and suffering, medical bills, lost wages, any other damage that you sustain. These claims do not get better with time, so please make sure to call us early. And we'd be happy to walk you through it, explain exactly what you need to do, and make sure to maximize the money that goes into your pocket. Visit us at LegalRideshare.com. It has all of our contact information.
Thank you, Bryant. And as I like to say, that is the end of This Week in Rideshare. See you next week.